thank you all for coming. It's an interesting title, this, and is technology the new Beatles? So there are sort of three strands that it strikes me when you start to look at all this innovation that's going on around us. Three strands that kind of recur and somehow represent something that might be more enduring. The first of those is simply high definition. The speed of the internet, the speed of bandwidth has increased so dramatically over the last 5 years, and the availability of that to large numbers of people, that it's now possible to run services that we could dream about 10 years ago, which were unthinkable 7 years ago, and 5 years ago just started to be possible. And the speed of the bandwidth means that you can put more bits across the internet, which means that you can have higher quality products. It means that streaming services are actually possible, and so we've seen the growth of Spotify and Deezer and so on. But at the same time, what it's also meant is that we can achieve really, really high definition audio and imagery. Second theme that I think is really worth exploring, that follows on from that really, is all about authenticity. And authenticity of experience is something which people have increasingly begun to crave. And maybe it's a reaction to the kind of very corporate, very fabricated, rather artificial kinds of presentations of music that we experienced in the 80s and the 90s. But also it's because somehow or other that need to acquire a one-off, a personalized, a customized, exclusive experience seems to be something that people respond to, perhaps in a sense, in the face of so much automation and so much technology, that it's that authenticity that people want. And so we're seeing live music growing incredibly. We're seeing the extraordinary explosion of festivals all over Europe in a way that we've never seen before. The numbers of festivals and the numbers of people attending festivals has really, really grown. And again, that idea of somehow or other having a relationship with the artist, a direct relationship, something which is entirely authentic and unmediated by anybody else, is at the very heart of that. And then finally, the third theme, which in some respects is pretty obvious and I think pretty well known to a lot of people, but actually is cropping up all over the place, and that is big data. And when we talk about big data, what do we mean? Well, we mean very large quantities of data, because the internet is capable of throwing off masses and masses of data all the time in every interaction that the consumer has. But actually it's the power of computing to analyze all that data and to make sense of it and then to turn that into something which is monetizable is the thing that is really driving the interest in big data. And we're just at the beginnings of it. It's still a buzzword, it's still very hyped, but actually when you start to look at umpteen different sorts of business models now in all sorts of different areas, what we're seeing behind that over and over again is a desire to analyze the data, to understand the nature of the interactions and the communications, and then to be able to improve the experience and therefore monetize the experience on the back of it.
So, but I was talking about the divide between the acoustic and the digital world. So with acoustic instruments, the range of the notes and the timbre is limited. The digital world brings about opportunities that are complementary to that. And there is a remarkable contrast between the depth of the acoustic world and the breadth of the digital world. Brian Eno spoke about this and opposed them as the world of intimacy versus the world of options. And intimacy would be the depth of the relationship with an instrument versus the breadth of options available in the world of computers. So this world of options enabled almost infinite range of sounds and textures and near-perfect sound imitations. The Seaboard is aimed at demonstrating that technology can be humanized and that one of our primary sense of touch, can be captured in meaningful ways to interact with the digital world. So by using the form factor of the piano, we allow musicians to reuse and develop lifelong skills. And by building our own software solution, we can tailor the experience around the physicality of the instrument and focus on the interaction between the two and capture more of the physicality of playing an instrument. So to summarize and perhaps answer the question of the night, is technology the new Beatles? I would say that as far as we are concerned, we feel very strongly that technology can and has a better chance than ever to play a role in music creativity. And it's not perhaps the technology race that will bring about changes, however, but it's perhaps the humanization of technology. So, thank you.
All right, we'll restart the clock.
Okay, well let's give this a go. So as you can see, as you can hear, the Sphere allows Bertie to take this classic tune and creatively remix it. He can play a melody just like on a normal instrument, and also add samples from the song itself and use these to create a mix. It combines all elements of production into one machine that allows Bertie to be creative, routing the alpha sphere into Ableton via MIDI. So our pad pressure data itself is also pressure sensitive and is actually higher resolution than standard MIDI controllers, 9-bit versus 7, which means pads can control criticals that work at higher resolution than MIDI. VJs in the audience will be familiar with DMX, which is what the Sphere can control. This means that a producer or DJ can manipulate visuals live, which is a long way from the press play culture of mainstream dance music, but a natural progression for electronic music creation and performance.
As much as anything, I'm talking about new band discovery, where you may not have heard that act before, but you want to give them a shot. So we were really frustrated with how live gigs in small places happen. Equally, in bigger places, it's amazing. Let's face it, it can be amazing to hear Madonna, Beyonce, whoever you've heard, but there's a lack of intimacy. You know, you don't connect with the artists really, if you can even see them so far away. So again, we thought there has to be a better way. So this guy, who's now retired, but was one of the ones who helped us kick it off, Dave, Passionate Dave was his name at the time. We went to his house in Kilburn, and we asked everybody, and there were 8 people there, just to be quiet and to focus on the music. Now, if the music stirred you and you decided to get up and cheer along, great. But please, just be quiet, come on time, and stay for all of Dave's performance. And he had a clock there, and you literally, it was so quiet, you literally could hear his grandmother's clock, that ticking, that subtle ticking in the background. And for us, this was magic. Because it was simple, but it was magical. And it connected everybody in the room in Kilburn on that night in 2009. It just said, this is great. Now, this was born not out of an interest in creating a company, but out of an interest in changing the way, in our own small way, small gigs happen. So people around the world wanted and agreed with us that live music, as good as it is, could be a lot better. And taking it into a small space and asking people to focus on the music, and that's it. Keeping it simple. We don't sell alcohol. It's just about the music. And keeping it in that environment, connected with people from Beijing to Bristol. Then, recently, someone came to us and said, you have a global audience. Can we participate? And this is Karen O from the Yeah Yeah Yeahs, who just came out with her own album. And she said, and her label said, we want to be part of this. And so her album was premiered at Sofar. No one else in the world had heard it. And within literally one day, we assembled 20 cities to play that album prior to its release. One of those 20 cities, she showed up to a very awestruck audience in New York City of 50 people playing her tunes.
We stand in exciting times where technology and art forms begin to truly merge and create multi-sensory experiences, where music, artwork, animation, words, storytelling, social gameplay and interaction converge to bring the listener into the performance, where a listener's gestures and interactions affect and personalize the outcomes, where a performance is a conversation between the creator and the audience. Jemima Jury, daughter of the late great Ian Jury, we've been taking a look at the original manuscripts and researching the meanings behind his lyrics. The intention of the project was to put emphasis on the words first and music second, the recording so well known culturally that the meanings and wit behind the lyrics are often overlooked. We styled the project around the era. Jemima mentioned that everything Ian touched became scruffy within minutes.
And the gardens of Japan, from Milan to Yucatan, every woman's, every man. Hit me with your rhythm stick, hit me, je t'adore, ich liebe dich. Hit me, hit me, hit me, hit me with your rhythm stick, hit me slowly, hit me quick, hit me.
There's more to music than music. It's about culture and subculture, new generations pushing boundaries, inventing and reinventing. It's about artwork and storytelling. Digital music services today are presented the way they are because people ripped CDs and put them on the internet. A list of tracks and some cover art. But what would happen if we had a blank digital slate? How would you reimagine a digital album, EP or single? We want music and art to harness and drive this accelerating power of technology, to create digital experiences that transform audiences, to create art that links the senses, to innovate, to create immersive.
Moving quickly on to digital resurrection, which is what we did with Tupac at Coachella in 2012. It was incredibly successful. I think we got beaten to the sort of number 5 slot of biggest YouTube clips of all time by a cat jumping into thin air. It's very funny, but we had, but that was Tupac. And I spoke to my mother about Tupac. She went, it's fantastic. The guy playing the trumpet, selling the butter. Like, the very few people knew who Tupac was in my mother's generation. She thought he was Lurpak, if anyone was guessing. So I looked at who could we do? Who could we do? We could do anyone, and it doesn't have to be. This is Rolling Stones, so they've got those rock credentials. Bring them back. But you could do any classical. Can you imagine Beethoven coming back, just like taking control of an orchestra, or Pavarotti, or whatever sort of lineage? Again, it doesn't just have to be. Let's bring back Jimi Hendrix for a 2-hour gig and replay it to everyone. Why not bring back Jimi Hendrix and put him amongst people who love him, current day artists who come on and duet and do all that kind of stuff. The artists here, it's not a case of just redoing their gigs. It's a case of what can you do with them. Theatre would be brilliant. All of these have got a life story, but they can be in their blooming life story. You don't have to have an actor. They could be part of it. So you can move your music. And why haven't we seen Jimi Hendrix? Why haven't we seen Keith Moon? I guess the honest answer is because we don't know how to deal with the estates a lot of the time. To deal with a live artist is very easy. You get them into the studio and you film them and they hold the rights. What you really need for those big names is trust. You need to be, or someone needs to be handling the family and the estate that they can trust, a third party. And that's where we're finding we've got projects at the moment. It's all coming through family members that that people trust, or other artists that people trust. Tupac happened purely because Dre was in charge of it. It only got played 3 times, 6 minutes on YouTube, and 6 minutes of hologram, and it got all that following.